Alrighty. Today is kind of a big day for me. I'm dropping a song. That makes it sound like I'm just like, yo, I made this mix. That's not what it is. I'm a jazz guy. Music. I wrote a song. I made the song, and then I released the song today. Right now, it's just on Bandcamp, but next Friday, I hope, which I believe is the 7th of June, uh, it should be releasing on streaming services. But knowing how things go, it'll probably be sometime like 2 weeks because they take 4 years to actually put things on streaming services. But I figured that I would actually go through and kind of break down my thought process behind the song, how I wrote it, how it eventually evolved with the performances of it. Well, performance, there's just one. But yeah, let's sort of delve into this. First of all, the is called LVF. If you're interested in it, highly suggest go over to my Bandcamp page, natemoody.bandcamp.com. It should just be there on the new releases. Keep in mind there's another Nate Moody. I'm the one that has the weird logo that's doing like the little Pippin face of like that one. There's another Nate Moody, very different style. You should hear contemporary funk that's mixed really badly instead of I think like rap or something like that. I don't know what he does. He just has my name and I don't like it. But yeah, so today I'm going to be kind of going in here, break it down. I have Studio One open, but I'm pretty sure the audio is like something's weird. OBS doesn't like it. So I'm mainly going to be using little MP3 player here, as well as the power of keyboard and bass to kind of break this whole thing down. So first of all, the title, LVF, what does it stand for? I kind of wanted it to be a goofy thing where it's like, oh, nobody knows what it stands for, but I'm terrible at keeping my own secrets. It stands for low volume funk, which kind of gives the idea as the inspiration behind it. Because when I first wrote this tune, I'm like, oh, I want to write something in the style of Wolfpack, one of my favorite bands, and their whole thing is low volume funk. Spoiler alert, it ended up becoming its own thing, but I kind of liked the title, so I kept it. That happens a lot, where I'll write something based around the title, but then I'll become attached to the title, so when the thing I'm writing just changes completely, the title stays. And honestly, I kind of like it. It's called LVF. I feel good about that. Go me. So, basically, this song's whole gimmick is, if there is a gimmick, is it's kind of teasing this G minor sort of thing. Because the actual, you only really hit G minor really strongly essentially once in the whole verse form. Because, actually, it might help if I break this down. I am opening up MS Paint. I'm going to put OBS so I can see what I'm doing here. Drawing with my mouse, so it sucks. So, we're in G minor. It's beautiful. Beautiful key. I like it. It's easy to play for me because as mainly a piano person, as mainly a bass person, and not exactly being a god at either. Well, I'm going to make it small screen. Oh, where'd the G minor go? Hello? There we go. All right. As a bass person, as a piano person, G minor just, it just feels good. I don't have to think super hard about it because while I may be classically trained, while I can say that's not a shoo-in for me being good. I'm not the best. I'm a freshman in college. It's not the greatest. Okay, but we have this G minor here. And in music theory, keep circling it. We have an idea of chords that are diatonic and non-diatonic. And essentially what that means is, do they appear in the chord? So, if we just take G minor, we're going to walk up with this triad. Those are essentially our chords. We got G minor, A diminished. Yeah, A diminished, I keep on forgetting. Half diminished full, that's only seventh chords. B flat major, C minor, D, here we have D minor. However, oftentimes, what we really like in music theory is something called the leading tone, where we have, oh. We like having that half step there. So oftentimes, instead of D minor, we make this D major. And then we have E flat major, F major, G minor. Now, most of the time in LVF, the chords are pretty simple. They're going along these lines. We have this, we can have this, we can have this. But occasionally, we find ourselves a chord that's non-diatonic. And mainly, I do this with invoking our our little friend E natural here, because if say we're just like jamming in G minor, like it doesn't exactly fit our little friend there, but it does stand out. It makes the whole thing brighter. So even though we're in G minor, it can kind of give this levity to it. You see this a lot in the mode Dorian, but I'm not really going to get into that super deeply here. So essentially, it's G minor with an added friend. Although I do like that E flat, so we're kind of going to alternate through here. So, sort of to do that, both sides of the song are essentially teasing this G minor. The idea is if you're soloing over it, or even if you look at the melody, it's mostly G minor, even though we rarely hit it. So, in the verse section, or A section, B section, I thought of it like verse, chorus, or verse, chorus, solos, chorus, that sort of thing. In the verse, forgive me, I'm terrible at drawing with a mouse, and I couldn't get my drawing tablet set up with the desktop here. We kind of had this G minor sitting on top for the whole verse. Well, except for the end when we do a little, 2-5-1 action, with that A half diminished. That's a half diminished. Sorry, it still takes me a bit to remember the difference. A half diminished and then to D7. We're kind of just sitting on this G minor on top. But the thing is, the main attention isn't on this G minor. It's on what's going on in the bass. Because the bass is actually doing this kind of this walk down motion. We start on G. Oh gosh, that sucks. You know what? Hold on. I'm just gonna grab my bass and show you. Yeah, this is the bass I use to record on LVF. I love it. It is my baby. So we kind of start on G, start on the tonic. Makes sense. F, minor 7, nothing too weird here. Ooh, that E natural. Now we have this sort of like E, E half diminished sort of feel. Or if you want to think about another way, you can just imagine it like a C chord, a C9, although the C is just not there. We're kind of walking down, and then we go back up. See, in a lot of music, what we really like is the idea of a 5-to-1, a sort of strong tension, and then resolution. And I like kind of subverting that a little bit, because, actually, in my comp lessons this year, my professor, he would often talk about what he calls the 5-7-to-1 bias, where if we hear this, our brains can fill in that we're doing that next. We just all instinctively know, because that's everywhere in Western music. But I kind of like fooling that around a little bit, because here we have like this, but we just skip right back. We just skip right back to that, that G. And so we do this walk down it again. And then our last rotation, we're going to do something a little bit different. So what that essentially is I mentioned the 5-7-to-1 bias. Well, in jazz music, we add a little caveat on there. We like the 5-1. But the thing is, okay, it's the 5-1. What's so cool about it? What's complicated? I don't get it. It's boring. That's where we introduce a little friend called the 2 chord. So, if we're in G minor, we're going to have that sort of 2-5-1 motion. Occasionally, that'll be major, so that we essentially have a 5-7 of the 5-7 of the 1, secondary dominant style, so. And that has a sort of bright quality. But in the verse, I kind of wanted to build up this sort of idea of tension. So we have this kind of weird build-up. We've got this diminished chord appearing in there. It's not a lot of spice, but there's some tension there, especially with the style of the songs. The drums essentially doing the shake it off beat. Okay, quick side note on that. The drum beat in this, if you listen to the verse, sounds disturbingly similar to Shake It Off by Taylor Swift. And that was unintentional. Because this version of the song, I had written the lead sheet. It had actually been performed like months before I actually went about recording this. But when I was doing this, I decided, you know what? I'm going to take it like 20 clicks faster. Because why the heck not? I've got MIDI on my side. I've got drum programming on my side. It's just me. I don't really have to worry about any of that. And so I just sort of sped up the drums. I'm like, all right, throw in some open hi-hat stuff to kind of get that little sizzle sound. It ended up being Shake It Off. So yeah, I've become the very thing I swore to destroy. But we're building up all this tension, and we're ending on that these sort of hits on that D7 chord. So what you would think next is we're gonna hit that G minor. We're gonna hit it hard. That's where you're wrong, because that feels too safe. Instead, what I did is the chorus section, this B section, we never hit that G minor. We don't hit it once in this chorus section. Instead, what we have is we transition to major. Because if you're in a minor key, what you would expect is the diatonic major key of that. So essentially, what has the same key signature as G minor and is a major? Well, the answer, of course, is B flat. See, that's all cool and all, but we're kind of used to that. So, instead, what I wanted to hit beforehand is, sure, we're kind of in B flat major here, but I wanted to sort of hit that in a weird way. Because if you don't want to hit your 1 right off the bat, like say we're in C major, if you don't want to hit that right off the bat, what's a good chord you can use beforehand? That's when the power of the major 4 comes in. Or, if we're in G minor, E flat major 7. So, it's all kind of basic beforehand, because it feels like kind of tension, resolution. Kind of tension. It's not really tension per se, it's more just it existing. Like, that chord's just there. It exists. That's fine. But then, we get a little spicy with it. That E flat, that E natural that we used all over the verse, comes back. It returns in full glory with the C7 chord. So essentially, we have the 4 going to the 1 of B flat major, and then we have the major 4 coming in here. And that major 4 is, of course, of G minor. You're going to hear me say G minor a lot. So yeah. We never hit that D7 here. Because you think, oh, we have this sort of thing. We hear major 7, we hear a dominant 7th chord, which is that like sort of slight crunch where you think, oh, nope. Back to the E flat. Why? Because I said so. And since you wanted it so badly, that D7, that major 5, are we going to the 1? No! You fool! It's always the E flat. It's always been the E flat. Now, an interesting to note, even though we never hit that G minor here, so essentially the B section is the release of the tension of the verse, while also building up tension for when we go back to the verse. The melody, however, is pretty much exclusively in G minor. We have a little bit of spice with that E natural, but overall, we're kind of tracing out that G blues. We have this G minor melody that's pretty heavy into that sort of tonality. Well, the rest of the time, the chords aren't in G minor. I mean, they kind of are, but they're not hitting that G minor at all. It's kind of teasing this tonic. And part of that is because, I'm a bassist. Oh, and keyboardist, but bassist first and foremost. Nate the bass man. And when I was writing this, I'm like, okay, well, these are kind of fun. And you can have this really funky bass line over it because you could just... Not a lot of shifting. You don't have to think a lot. And so, by just using those octaves... It just feels good. It feels good to play. So, and then we have verse, chorus again. So, essentially we've been teasing this G minor, where it feels like G minor is the big break that we're leading to, but you don't get that in the B section, you get that in the A section. The A section is more about building dissonance. So which part is the tension being released? Who knows? Well, if we think about music theory, it should be like, oh, well, the A section, obviously, because then we finally hit that G minor. It's not. The B section, it's a lot happier. It's a lot more upbeat. You have this really fun sort of thing. I'm switching to the piano patch. That feels more like a release. And especially with the drums switching to sort of this ride cymbal jam, like kind of a little bit of amen break style going on there, but not fully. So yeah, we have sort of this build up of tension. We have everything being released. You know what? I'm not using the screen at all. I'm just going to make me big. Look at me. I'm so big. All right. Now, let's get to where the big changes happen here. Because I actually released a lead sheet for this. You can get it on my Bandcamp. Hopefully everything still works. If it doesn't, I don't know. Just email me angrily and I can send you the PDF. Basically, this song, I sort of alluded to this before. I wrote this about a year ago. I was kind of messing around during the summer. I'm like, oh, this is a fun, upbeat tune. And then I essentially did nothing with it. However, I had a very unique opportunity this past year, freshman year of college, where the jazz combo program, I was getting together with my director and my friends in my combo. And I'm like, hey, would you guys mind if I brought in a piece? And they're like, sure, as long as it doesn't suck. So I essentially went through... made a lead sheet of LVF so that way it can be performed in a combo setting. Brought it in. They helped me make some changes to it. For example, originally we kind of sat on this. We kind of sat on that for a while, to which they were just like, "Bro, just start on the G." So they sort of helped me flesh out the vision for LVF here. But yeah, so lead sheet exists. We eventually performed it, and it was a lot of fun. I think I'll include a link to the actual performance in the description. I will warn you, the audio sucks. Whitworth is not great at anything live. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. Blame them. If you want to hear a recording with better audio quality, but no other people, that's what this is for. So, we eventually went through, performed it. It was a blast. It was very different from everything else being played that night, because you hear, like, bossa nova, swing, a jazz ballad, an upbeat contemporary funk using chords that aren't really spicy enough for a lot of jazz. We have that. So it was kind of the odd one out, but it was also a lot of fun. It was also weird seeing, like, the list of song, composer, and my name being the composer where it didn't have the year the person died on it. It's very odd. Odd sensation. But yeah. So it has been performed, and I did include some changes. But probably the biggest change in the recording is when you're recording something separately and don't have to worry about coordinating with other people, you can kind of mess around a little bit. You can have a lot of fun, because a lot of things you can do can be super impromptu. You don't have to worry about communicating them, because I'm just saying it to myself. And so I included a couple major differences in here. And first is the piano solo. So the piano solo doesn't actually follow the A section form, because you would assume it would be like, or something better than that. That was shit. Instead, what I wanted to do is I'm like, what if I mess around a little bit? There's a video that's been sticking in my mind for a while, and it's by the guy Button Masher. You might have heard of him. He's essentially an excellent keyboardist and composer. Won the Grammy along with Charlie Rosen for a Meta Knight song. great tune, by the way. But he essentially implies a lot of this jazz stuff and uses it during like chiptune stuff. And so he'll play like super complicated things using like a Genesis sound font or something. And there was one tune of his where it's essentially a Nintendo praise break. Now, I've grown up in the Pacific Northwest, Washington State. I am pasty. I have not had a lot of interaction with gospel music, especially in any live setting. I just haven't really interacted with it. Of course, I've seen a lot of it played. It's like I follow people like Mono Neon and Corey Henry, and see stuff they do, and it's just insane. It's so wild. And so I kind of wanted to channel a little bit of that gospel praise break sort of thing. Now, keep in mind, I'm not saying this is exactly what that is. I am not good enough for that. I am not that good at piano. But essentially what you'll hear is like a lot of like, with chords that don't suck, obviously. You'll hear a lot of those chords moving around very fast. So what I did is, first of all, get rid of like half the chords. And I wanted to sort of channel that sort of chromatic idea of chords moving around. So essentially what I came up with is, well, we've been talking about G minor the whole time. What if we do G major instead? So, so essentially what we have here is the right hand is on this F major triad, and the bass is kind of sitting on this G pedal. So, okay, I mentioned gospel. It's honestly closer to Linus and Lucy. G major there. A little chromatic thing, because I wanted to throw that in there. I'm like, it needs some spice. So, we have this super easy thing here, and I want to get to this G major thing here. Why not just... The bass is doing the same thing, and actually the left hand of the piano and the bass guitar are doing the same thing. Well, not really. I kind of just hit the downbeat. Kind of doing that chromatic walking motion. And so we essentially sit on that for a little bit. We have, you know... that sort of unified lick. Guitar and bass join in on that as well, although I kind of axed the guitar in the mix because I am bad at guitar. So it's not great trying to be Corey Wong when I can't even do picking that's in an upwards direction. I'm not great at it. But essentially we have this fun little piano thing, and then suddenly the right hand just... The right hand kind of just soars off into its own sort of direction, and then we're in the B section. We kind of hit this... The right hand's doing this fun thing. Chords come back in. You recognize a little... that sort of motion coming back in. It's just a lot of fun. And then eventually we reach the end. The piano just like, you know... And then we reach the second major change. I added a bass break too, because this song is called LVF. LVF as a reference to Low Volume Funk, Wolfpack. Do you want to know what Wolfpack has? Joe Dart, the bassist I want to be. And so I put a little bass break in here, just kind of focusing on that funk sort of thing. A little bit of Joe Dart, a little bit of Michael League, tiny little sprinkle of Tetsuo Sakurai in there. It's just a lot of fun. So now, everything else cuts out, including the chordal instruments. So for all intents and purposes, I'm just vamping on a G minor 7 chord. With just the drum kind of, you know, I think it was like... something similar to that. I did go into whole tone scale out a little bit, as well as another thing I really like, is that on bass, especially a 4-string bass like this, if you go a note on the E string and then a note or fret above on the G string, you get a major 10th. You gotta slide that around for a really cool effect, which I just love. And so I slip that into the bass break, and then all of a sudden the guitar solo comes in screaming. This I'm actually surprised didn't suck, because like I said, I'm not great at guitar. This isn't plugged in, so you're not really gonna hear anything. It's like. It's not super complicated. It's more for texture. Anything else? I couldn't do a screaming guitar solo. Even if I tried, it would just sound really bad. And as of right now, it already sounds mediocre. But still, guitar solo. And then that gives us kind of this final boost of energy going into the final chorus, in which the guitar kind of comes in with a secondary harmony, which isn't the same as the lead sheet, but it's kind of drawn from the same place. And then we have a fade out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to play the MP3 here. I have it open on like a little iTunes player. And so that way we can kind of just listen through what's going on here. Here's our opener with those B section chords. This section's a lot more like minor, rooted in that funk. That E natural appearing again. A, D. Music theory-wise, this isn't like the big break here, in terms of like the chordal tension, but definitely with everything else, it's much more of a happy vibe. It's the chorus. So here there's a bit of variation. The piano is joining the lead electric piano in the melody. You can also hear the rhythm guitar very faintly in the background. The reason it's faint is because it sucks. I couldn't get the compressors to work. These chords are really fun on guitar. It makes me wish I wasn't bad at guitar. Here's our piano break. That fun little lick. Here's the B section. I am going to mention a quick little interesting thing there. Okay, yeah, I'm still recording. I hit pause and I'm like, oh no, did I stop? There are two major quotes in these solos. First of all, you hear the... That's a reference pretty much like the first sort of funk song I ever did. A song called White Lie, which... it's there. I had a friend of mine feature on clarinet. For that one. And it was pretty good. Honestly, salute to their patience on that, because that wasn't a great tune. It's like you have the... The melody feels stagnant. It doesn't really go anywhere. It's just that over and over again. The only good thing about that was kind of the bass line. But I do quote the melody all the time because it's really fun to do so. All right, back into it. I'm just sitting on that back pickup there. Little whole tone stuff. Okay, another note on that. Okay, never mind. Three main quotes. That's another quote, because in the Cory Wong song Synchronicity, which makes me really mad because Cory Wong is is mainly a guitarist, and yet he's a better bassist than I am, and it makes me mad because he's just that good. There's this fun little break that, because most of the bass line is pretty simple. It's just kind of that sort of slap octave line. But then, after a big solo break, we kind of go into this final chorus here with like a kind of that sort of walk down where it's like minor 7-1. I just like that, and I feel like quoting that fit the vibe of this a lot. So yeah, now we have two semi-serious quotes. The third one is far goofier. Coordinate guitar struggling to keep along here. I'll let you figure out what that quote is. It's so stupid. Kind of just going up and down the blues scale here. Nothing bass tune the melody here. Yeah. Little harmonic. Makes me pretend I'm Victor Wooten. And honestly, that little bit at the end with the little that's just me being goofy. All right, well, that's LVF. Pretty much broken down in its entirety. So yeah, this is a this is a slightly different version than the one I performed with my combo. And the lead sheet does have a slight variation, but if you want to perform it, feel free to make whatever adjustments you deem necessary. Just keep my name on there, please. I really like it being there. It makes me feel like I'm doing something with my life. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Fun song. Please listen to it. It's on Bandcamp. I set the price at $1, but you can pay me more if you want to, I guess. Or just pay $1 and be a normal person. Or just wait a couple weeks until it releases on streaming. I don't know. I don't care. You guys have a good time. Stay funky.